Okay. All right. So, verbs, right? Talk more a bit about that. Um, one of the characteristics of verb is tense, and tense is the relationship between an event happening and the speaking of that event. Okay. So if an event occurs and then it's spoken of after the event occurs, right, then you would speak of it in the past tense. Okay. But if you're speaking of an event that hasn't yet happened, right, so the event happens after the speaking of it, in that case, you'd use the future tense, right? If they kind of happen at the same time, right, through time there, it'd be present tense. Um, now, I want to talk about these different tenses, and ultimately we've got six tenses, right? Two groups of tenses, like simple tenses, and then we've got like perfect tenses, and we'll talk about that. Um, so, of the simple tenses, you've got present tense, past tense, and future tense. Present tense is happening now, or sometimes we talk about like habitual acts in terms of present tense, right? It all depends on what the now is. I could say that the sun shines, right? I would consider that a habitual act. Maybe on a cosmic scale, though, it isn't, right? Maybe on the cosmic scale, it's just like kind of a very small now, like the way I might talk about having lunch or something. But because the now is subjective, right? We can talk about things like that, or maybe like absolute truth. We talk about in terms of uh, the present tense, right? Um, all right. So for the present tense, we form that with the bare infinitive. Remember, they're our first of the principal parts. So instead of to run, it's just like we take out the to, we just have run. Right? Um, so in the example here that I gave, like the sun shines. Okay. We also have another tense that is not really a tense, really. Okay, it's like the sun is shining. Really, what that is sun uh, is linking verb, present tense, and then you've got like a present tense participle shining, right? Um, I tend to be a bit picky about this, and maybe I shouldn't be, because in truth, in Anglo-Saxon, really there were only two tenses. You had past and present, and everything else was formed like this, like taking verbs and verbals and squishing them together, and to get, and we see that today in like our future tense, right? Like will go, will shine. In truth, it is what it is. But we don't recognize the present progressive as like a formal tense. Okay, so you won't find that in your textbooks. Okay. All right. Then we've got the past. All right. So that occurs, like you speak in the past tense when you're speaking of an event after it has occurred. Um, so we've got just that basic, like the second principal part, fell, right? He fell. There you go. Now we have a past progressive version of that, right? So he was falling, and we call that imperfect. And you will find that as like one of the official tenses, and it's unique in that the information it conveys, right? So that future, right? We simply take will and add it to the bare infinitive. So will run, he will play, right? We also have a future progressive where we just take will and the bare infinitive of, to be, which is be, so will be, and then playing, present uh, participle, right? But that again is not a formal tense right now. We have the present perfect, which begins in the past and ends in the present. Okay, and I'll show you a chart here at the end. This will all make a little bit more sense. But so we generally call this present perfect tense just perfect, right? She has eaten, right? We also have the present perfect progressive, where you take have or has plus, the to be, uh, in the past, he has been, right, or had been, or yeah, excuse me, no. All right, we'll get to the past perfect in just a sec. But for the present perfect progressive, right, you have the have or has plus the to be in the past participle form, which is been, right? And then you have the bare infinitive of whatever verb is, and you tack on the ing, making it present participle. So in this case, you have she has been eating. Again, not an actual formal tense that we recognize, like, textbooks and such. Um, but there we go. Now, getting to the past participle, or the past perfect. Let's do that. All right. So the past perfect begins in the past and ends at a later point in the past. And if you get, like nuancy with it, there are continuing effects of that into the present. Um, so with the simple past perfect, you have the had, right, plus the past participle, or what's called the pluperfect. That's what this tense is usually called, particularly in the foreign language classes, right? Pluperfect. So he had believed in Santa Claus. Okay, he started believing in Santa Claus at one point in the past. Did that up until a later point in the past. No longer believes in Santa Claus. Okay, but and then you have the past perfect progressive. Okay, so had, right, plus the to be in the past participle, so been, so had been, and then whatever the bare infinitive is with ing, right, present participle. So he had been believing in Santa Claus. Not an often used tense, and certainly not a formal tense either. All right, and then future perfect. We've got something that occurs in the future, right, but ends at a later point in the future. Okay, you form it with will, always for future tense, will, and then have, again, a marker of the perfect tense, and then the past participle. So I will have graded the exams by Wednesday. Okay, the starting of the grading of the exams and the ending of the grading of the exams, right, at a later point. Can you see that there? Okay, this hand, right, the start, and then at a later point there. Um, and then we've got the future perfect progressive, okay, where it gets even more uh, convoluted. You've got the will, again, a marker of the future tense. You've got have, so again, another, it's perfect, so future perfect. And then to be in the past perfect form, or past participle form, excuse me. So been, so will have been, okay. And then the bare infinitive with the ing. So you've got that participle. So I will have been grading the exams for 4 days, right? Again, not a formal tense. Okay. And this is that chart that I promised you there at the end. Um, you see at the top there, you've got present. That's something that starts in the present, and it moves to the future, just kind of how, like as you speak, you move in time there into the future. So that's what's meant by that. The aorist, or the simple past, right, or preterite, if you will. That's talking about like a distinct event, like as a boop, just right there, it happened in the past. Compare that though to the pluperfect, or the past perfect. What we've done is we've effectively kind of opened up that event so that we can talk about things that might have occurred during that time, right? Or what have you. Um, you see that the imperfect there, the past progressive, is kind of it's something that starts in the past and it might just continue on. Um, Okay. And again, look at the future tense there. You've got a distinct unit there happening in the future. You compare that to the future perfect, right, where you've got that sucker opened up a bit, so that you can connect information. Um, but what you see here in all of this is sort of every combination of something beginning here and ending here that you can come up with. Okay, and that's why, for example, I told you that we like all of these. Well, some of the ones that don't, that I begrudgingly acknowledge as a tense, really are necessary tenses because of the information that they convey. All right. Okay. Well, there we are.